guru, you're so many steps removed from that person that you've
Mm.
lost that relatability for that person.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Woman. Today I have Jane Tweedy with me. She's a certified small business coach, advisor, consultant, trainer, and a lifelong learner. Jane has worked with over thousands of businesses, and she has workshops out on her practical and tested implemented theory. Jane's business FAQ business training empowers you to DIY or outsource confidently to avoid getting ripped off or ripping yourself off. Training is offered through councils, networking, businesses, conferences, and through her online school and membership. If you want to cut through the noise and get forward momentum, Jane can help you grow. Hi, Jane. Welcome to the podcast and show.
Thanks, Vanya. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about what you do and what is, I guess, in terms of, because you have worked with so many businesses, what is the common thing that you see within businesses, I guess, when they're starting out or just when they need your help?
So people reach out to me through mainly the New South Wales government funded service, so Business Connect.
Mhm.
And because of that, I see a lot. So I've seen 1,650 plus now, one-on-one. So that's a lot of intel and a lot of insight. And what I've learned from that is that a lot of people are suffering exactly the same issues. And that was partly why I created my training business. So I got sick of hearing these stories of people getting ripped off or ripping themselves off. And by ripping
Mhm.
themselves off, often that comes from a place of lack of self-belief, lack of thinking that they're good enough to have a message and something to say. And that feeds through to everything. They don't market, they don't price properly. And it just filters through their entire business. And what does that mean? Their business won't be sustainable. So it's really
Yeah.
frustrating when you see that. And that's why I started my business, was to educate more people, because I'm like, if I can reach more people, hopefully I can stop this happening on a bigger scale. So that was why I started.
Okay, awesome. So tell me about, you said there that people either get ripped off, which is, I assume, from, people on the outside, I guess, when they're looking
Yeah.
for website designers and things like that.
Yes.
How, so what do you see? What is I guess, a common theme? How do they get ripped off and how do they rip themselves off?
Okay, so the getting ripped off by others is because often they have no idea. And it's a bit like if you go to someone and you say, right, I'm having a wedding. Instantly their ears prick up and they go, oh, money, money, money. And, so you get charged more because it's a wedding rather than a function. So that happens a lot in small business. They see you coming. They often not realize that people are coming out of corporate. They're completely naive, no idea what they're doing. So a prime example of this was one poor gentleman who had spent $40,000 on a single website, 6 months worth of SEO, search engine optimization, which was really search engine marketing, ads, and a landing page that went with that, and his domain name. They even charged him $2,000 for his domain name, which was a
Wow.
misspelt word. It was not a premium domain. And you're just going, this was a straight con. Like, these people were terrible. But the thing was, he'd come out of corporate. He had no idea how much a website should cost. And so he thought,
Mm.
oh, given corporate numbers, oh, that sounds kind of okay, and went with them. And so when he came to see me, he'd been in business for a year. He'd made one $300 sale in an entire year. And it was a disaster, right? So I looked at his website and I went, what you sell? Your website doesn't even mention. Like, it makes no sense. So nobody's going to find you through Google. Nobody's going to go to your website and think you provide their solution. They're just not.
Yeah.
So I had to get him to spend more money to fix his website, but I introduced him to the local chamber and he fixed that. So what I did through my business was go, how do I stop that type of thing happening? So getting people to understand how to check a website designer, what questions to
Mhm.
ask, understanding the tools they can use to monitor. So that stops them hopefully getting ripped off. On the flip side of
Yeah.
ripping themselves off, that's about things like I said before. It's more about that self-belief. It's more about not marketing, thinking, oh, I've run a Facebook ad, which is usually a boosted post, and thinking, oh, I've done all the marketing I can possibly do. You know, I've exhausted every avenue, and they give up. And or they are too afraid to put themselves out there. You know, you say to them, blogging's really good, and they're like, oh, no, I haven't got anything to say. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have anything to say? And they think because they're not the guru in their field that they don't have something worthy. And it's very frustrating because they absolutely do. In fact, they have more to some extent than the people that are higher up.
Hmm. Okay. Wow. So, what I guess causes us, because I know that, if you say, you're speaking to one of these people and you ask them to talk about that topic, I'm sure, as I am as well, when it comes to counseling and psychology and all of that stuff, I get very, very passionate about it and I love talking about it, and helping out people. So it's not like we don't know our topic. So then
Correct.
what causes us to feel like, so I guess the right word is that imposter syndrome. What causes us to feel like then I don't know, I'm not worthy when I clearly I am. When, if you were to ask me anything, I would give you everything.
Yeah.
Um, but then you still have that doubt. And then what am I doubting? Where does that come from?
So a lot of it clearly comes from social media. And we've all heard of the Insta life, right? And you see the person on the Insta life and they're a mom and they're juggling 3 children under 5 and they have a business and they have a job on the side and oh my God, their life is perfect. And that's what we see because that is the image they portray on their socials. Behind the scenes, you have no idea what's going on. Their marriage could be in tatters. Those kids could be being looked after by the grandparents, never see their mum ever. Their business could be an epic failure. They could have made 1 sale this month and that's it. And this happens a lot. And there was a case recently where one of my clients had been making about $15,000 a month. And so she was clearly earning, 180,000, say, a year. And
Mhm.
she got a bit fearful because market turned down a bit, but it was a market downturn. Other people in her market were suffering too. But she had this perception that a certain person was still doing really well. And this
Yeah.
person then put out a program and said, oh, I've got this amazing program, come join with me. And she went and joined her program. I looked this lady's website, this lady's business up on the ABR, so abr.business.gov.au. And the woman was not registered for GST. So what that tells you is my client that's earning 180,000 a year is going to someone who's earning less than 75,000 a year for advice, thinking that this woman is so much better than she is. And she just
Right. Yeah.
completely misread it. She had made assumptions this woman was so much better than she was. Clearly she was already doing a lot of good things because she was earning
Yes.
well more than that person.
Yeah.
And it's just we see this life and we believe everything we see. So we've got to remember somebody, what they put on their socials is curated. It's what they
Mm.
want us to see about them. So even if they put up a failure, they don't put up every failure. They put up failures that they think that will connect to their audience or that will have some other beneficial impact for them. It is not about,
Yeah.
every failure. Oh, God, today was a disaster. Because if they show that every day, are you going to want to deal with them? Clearly not. So we all
Yeah.
curate.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So when we do have this imposter syndrome, or this fear, do people see through that? Can our customer, clients, consumers, whatever, can they see through that, or can we hide it well enough?
I mean, absolutely. Well, in that case, the woman had it really well because my client had the perception that she was still doing a lot of business. And it actually
Yeah.
turned out about 2 weeks later, she actually put up a video about the fact that she wasn't getting business, that her business was down as well. And
Mm.
because she'd put certain things up. And for instance, there's an event manager that I know. And on her LinkedIn, she's got it on repeat, basically. So every 3 months, it regurgitates the previous content. So that might be a blog post and it comes up, but that could also be a testimonial. So a testimonial comes up, so-and-so, oh, amazing, blah, blah, blah. But then you realize 3 months later, you go, I've seen that before. And then 3 months later, I've seen that before. And it gets to the point where you're just like, so have you not done any business recently? Maybe last year, obviously in events, maybe they hadn't. So that was probably fair enough. But you've got to be careful of regurgitating stuff like that, because it does make you sort of start questioning it and going, are they actually doing anything? Why is all this stuff old? So we've got to be mindful of what we're putting out there. But absolutely, you can fake it till you make it. I don't actually advocate that, but I do advocate understanding where you are and understanding that where you are is probably absolutely sufficient for communicating with your clients.
Okay, wow. All right. So then do we, in saying that, do we communicate that we are, I don't know, fearful, or that we are, how honest should we be?
It really comes down to how open you want to be, but also, like I sort of said before, we don't want someone to be negative all the time and be a victim all the time, because that's not going to go down well, right? So we can't be like that all the time. However, we can share certain things. So a good example of this is a lady by the name of Cherie Clonan, and she runs a business called The Digital Picnic, which is a multi-million-dollar digital marketing agency down in Melbourne. She is neurodiverse, so she has autism and ADHD and, the whole kind of cocktail there. She's very open about it. She makes that a pillar of her business to let people know I'm neurodiverse. This is, I do some crazy things because of it, but I also do some really cool things because of it. And she makes it aware to people that it's not a bad thing to be neurodiverse, and also to let other businesses know how to communicate with people that are neurodiverse. So I think it's a great thing to share something like that. But do you share every failure? No, of course you don't. You've got to pick and choose what works for you in your business.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So then I guess some of the stuff that we feel like holds us back or is a negative, thinking about how we can actually use it to connect further with people, or even just telling your story and hopefully then inspiring someone who is maybe going through the same thing that you're going through.
Right.
And obviously that can build on connection.
Absolutely. And that's where we are very relatable. And this is why, honestly, being the guru in your field is not actually your aim. If you aim to work with people down, at a lower level, then being a guru, you're so many steps removed from that person that you've lost that relatability for that person. So even if you had that story 20 years ago, you don't have that story recently. You haven't been there, done that in the current environment. You've been there, done that pre-social media, right? So you've got to understand it's different. So if you are close to where the person is, you're a few steps above them, that's actually a great place to be, because you still get their challenges, you still get their problems, and you are far more relatable to them. You can empathize with them a lot more. And that definitely helps you to move forward and to move your clients forward. So, think about when you were suffering in that issue. What did you do? What tips, did you put out? And you can share that because it's raw and it's real. So don't be afraid of only being a few steps above. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Use it to your advantage.
Yeah, all right. I really love that. It's about noticing what you are feeling and just being comfortable with it, and just kind of understanding, okay, how can I use it to do something with this? Or how can I even, we don't even have to share it. How can I just use it as a lesson or something, build something with it? So it's not just this massive thing that's in my life.
And the lessons thing is a very valid point, because someone made a comment about that the other day on a post that I put up, and I can't even remember what it was about, but the person made the comment and she said, I love your insights into things. So I don't just go to something and report it in a certain way. I, give some insight that I got out of it. And that's what then connects with people, because they're like, they never thought of it that way, or they didn't realize other people thought of it that way. And so when you call it out, they're like, oh, wow, yeah, I'm not the only one that thinks like that. And oh, this is great. And then they connect more with you. And you know what? They become your ideal clients because they get you and they gel with you. And that's a great thing.
Wow, that's really, really awesome. Tell me about, so I know one of the things that really imposter syndrome impacts, and I've certainly had it myself, is pricing. I know that
Yes.
we, especially when we are starting out, and I'm trying to um, now going back, I just kind of remember it like it was yesterday. When you're starting out, you are so desperate for, I guess, clients, and you wanna just go out there and do the job. And I think that we kind of go, oh, I maybe don't have the experience, or I don't have the experience on my own, so therefore I will price it less. But one of the things that I remember one of my coaches telling me, which stays with me till the day one, till today, you don't want people to choose you because you're the cheapest.
No, no,
So
you
tell
never want to
me,
have that race to the bottom.
yeah, so tell me about, so how does imposter syndrome affect pricing, and then what do we do?
Yeah. So you've already said in your case what happened to you, and that's exactly what people do. So a good example is, say, a photographer, and they go,
Mm,
right, they use the excuse, I need to build a portfolio. That's always the excuse, or if you're a counselor, it could be, oh, I need more experience in certain areas. So you justify that reduction in price. But the thing is, I've got one client in particular, and she's an amazing photographer. Like her
mm,
skills are awesome. So just
yeah,
because she's starting out, it doesn't mean she's starting out like, it's somebody that's literally picked up a point and shoot camera, click, click. No, she's got skills.
yeah.
The trouble is, if she comes in and markets really low, she's actually destroying the entire industry because now other people can't justify, oh, but you come to me because I'm quality, but you could go to her and she's still quality. So you've got to be very mindful of the fact that you can actually destroy the entire industry. I've had people that have gone into a business with the attitude that I'm giving back. I've done my corporate, I've made money, now I'm just giving back. And so I'm going to come in really cheap. But what they do by coming in really cheap, again, undercut the industry. But also,
Mm,
they're not remembering that other people actually have to earn a living. They have to cover all their costs. Just because they don't have to doesn't mean everyone else doesn't. So they're actually
yeah.
destroying the industry. But the imposter side is really about the fact that if you don't believe in yourself, how is anybody going to believe in you? So what I've
Mm,
seen, and a good example is a hairdresser. She was talking to a client on the phone. So I was sort of sitting beside her and she was talking to the client. She's going, oh, your hair, when you have, this color and it's going to this color and it's this type of hair, then you go through, and she's going through all this stuff, blah, 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 really high up energy, all that stuff. And then the person asked her over the phone, how much is this going to cost? And she literally dropped her head, muffled her voice, $160. And that was kind of the end of the conversation, right? And I said to her when she got off the phone, I said, what did you just do there? What was this muffled, tone drop and everything? What was that? And she goes, because I think it's too expensive. And I'm like, what? What do you mean it's too expensive? And in her mind, she was still a hairdresser in the Blue Mountains operating from home. She was
mm,
actually a hairdresser in Parramatta in a salon that is expensive to be in. You
yeah.
don't charge $160 for a color and everything that she was doing, right? This was not a $160 job. It was a $300 job. But in her mind, she didn't believe she was worth $160. So in her mind, that was why she just curled up. She literally dropped her head, the tone, everything. So the thing is, the client's not going to believe her now. The client's not going to
Mm,
believe she's worth that amount of money. She didn't believe it. So obviously the way to fix that is you have got to believe. You've got to believe what you're putting out there. You've got to consciously make that effort that when you are asked about price, that you own it. Now that photographer I mentioned earlier that was undercutting a lot, initially. She worked with me on her pricing. She tripled her prices. And when the next client came to her, she was like sort of freaking out. Oh my God, I'm putting this price at that. But she stuck to her guns. And the person
Yeah.
asked a question about the price. And she goes, no, it's that. I'm absolutely worth it. I'm really good quality, blah, blah, blah. Gave all the reasons. And the person said, right, I'm going with you because you believe in it. And I believe in you. And she took the job. Then that person's given her repeat business. So the
Yeah.
thing is, we think we have to dumb ourselves down. We think that we have to undercut to win business. And it's like,
Mm.
no, you're actually just going to lose business. And that's going to make you, like you said before, more desperate. The more
Yes.
desperate we are, the more silly things we start doing. And it just gets this, revolving effect that it's just going to compound and compound and compound until we go nuts or we close up shop or, something bad happens or we go, okay, enough's enough. I need to change. But you need to, you said earlier, you've got to recognize these things, see these flags. So when you
Right.
have a client that rejects you, don't automatically assume the rejection is on price, because that's another
Mm.
mistake I see people make. They
Yes.
assume
Yeah.
I was too expensive, but you can actually
Mm.
be too cheap. And I've seen that many times where in one case, this lady said she went to 5 different places. She charged whatever she was charging. And the last one she went, oh, well, they're just going to say no anyway. So she doubled her price. And so she did her little spiel and doubled the price. And they said, sure, where do you sign up? And she was just like, what? And that's when she clicked, oh, I wasn't too expensive. I was actually too cheap. So they were querying whether my quality was actually good enough.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So you touched on something there in terms of that we have to believe that we are worthy of the price. So tell
Yep.
me, how do we do that? How do we start believing, or how do we start, I guess, yeah, convincing ourselves or something?
Yeah. So for a start, it's changing our mentality towards pricing. So a lot of people, when they go in small business, they have this attitude, I can only charge the customer what the customer sees. So if the customer has an hour of my time, I can charge the customer an hour. That's it.
Mhm.
The reality is, though, that you're not there for just the hour. So say, for instance, it was a cleaner. This is a prime example. If you asked on a mum's page or something, oh, how much would you pay for a cleaner and stuff? And they'd probably go, oh, like $25 an hour. Okay, so the minimum wage for a cleaner, a casual cleaner, is like $28 plus. Plus you got super. Plus you got
Mm.
workers' compensation, which is about 5%. So you've got super at 10.5, you've got that at 5%, you've got your over insurance, business overheads, blah, blah, blah. By the time you add all that together, plus if they're your employee, you've got to pay them to drive between jobs. You don't pay them just while they're at the house. You have to actually pay them to drive around the jobs. You pay them to set up, to pack down. You pay them for all those extra bits. And you
Yeah.
yourself are doing admin, you're doing marketing, you're doing invoicing, you're doing all this extra stuff. All of
Mm.
that has to be built into the price. So that
Right.
cleaner, that 1 hour for the cleaner is not $25. That's why it's actually $45. And that's like an
Mm.
absolute minimum to actually even make a cent. And this is where people just go, oh my gosh, like they had no idea, because in their mind, they're thinking employee rates and
Yes.
the customer might be thinking employee rates. But the point is, your 1 hour is not 1 hour. It could
Yeah.
be 2 hours. It could be, so you've got to make sure you're factoring that stuff in. So it's really important to actually take a step back and go, rather than just, oh, other people seem to be charging this, this is just what I'm going to charge, and it's all
Mm.
guesswork. Actually understand how much it costs for you to deliver your product or service. And
Okay.
particularly things like handmade goods, oh my gosh, nightmare, because they cost so much.
Yeah.
People
Well,
wonder why cake makers charge $600. Do you know how much hours goes into making one of those beautiful cakes that you want? They
mm.
need to charge that to cover the costs and the ingredients, the cost of having the food authority and their local council register their business, the cost of, running their business, and then on top of it, their time. And
Yes.
that's where the $600 goes. So
Yeah.
you can make that call and go, I can go to Woolworths and buy a $5 cake. Fine. If that's your budget, go do that. But if you
Mm.
respect them and what they offer, pay them their $600. But
Yeah.
there'll be clients that will pay that, and there'll be clients that go to Woolworths for $5.
Mm. Yeah.
Don't
And
please everybody.
yes, exactly. And then so the ones that I guess do reject you for your price is obviously not your client, and you are there for when they are ready to pay for your services or for your, whatever it is, or for
Correct.
your product.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So not everyone is your client. So it's
Yeah.
perfectly okay to say your price and stick with it. And obviously, if you've communicated your message about what value the person's getting, and it's not just the physical, this is what you're getting, this is how it's going to work and things, but what benefit is it giving the client? What emotional benefit is it giving the client? So is the
Mm.
client going to feel relieved? So for instance, going back to the cleaner scenario, you're not just cleaning wiping the bench and cleaning the windows and vacuuming the floor. That's not what you're doing. We all know that's what a cleaner does. But
Yeah.
why does someone hire a cleaner? They do it because they are sick of looking at the mess around their house and feeling guilty that, oh my God, my house is a mess. I can't have friends over. I can't entertain. So there's a whole bunch of guilt going on. There's just that unsettled feeling, that cluttered feeling. We feel cluttered when there's clutter around us. So that's
Yeah.
why we hire the cleaner, is to resolve those issues. It is not to actually have someone sweep our floor.
Yes.
That's just how they make it. But it's how you message it then becomes really important.
Yes. All right. So, I guess what is the key, or what can we do now, just, from listening to this podcast, and we can have something to take away with, in terms of how do we
Yeah,
message that? 'Cause I love that. That's a really brilliant one. So it's not necessarily that I'm just sweeping the floors. It's I am giving the client something that obviously potentially they can't do. They could do themselves, but they can't, because if they did, they would. Um, so,
exactly.
tell us something. Tell us a little bit about how do we then message that, or is there like a key thing we must cover, or I guess what is the process?
So typically it's going to be a kind of a story format.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's called problem, agitation, solution, PAS. But basically what you want to do is talk about the problem first. So it
Mm-hmm.
could be in that situation, are you a busy career woman who doesn't have time to clean her house? So that's
Yeah.
the problem they have. Do you feel guilt because your house is not up to the standard you want it to be? So you open with that because, yeah, I can see your face, and those that are listening won't know that, but she's going, oh my gosh, on her face. But the thing is, that's the thing, right? We have that guilt. That's what you're connecting with. So if you connect with that, you poke the problem. So we poke it, but we poke it very quickly.
Yeah.
We don't want to stay and leave them in that state because that's not nice. We don't want to leave them there. So we want to then say to them how we're going to help them while you're at work, or if they prefer, while you're, relaxing by the pool, whatever it is, whatever message you want to convey. You then say to them, while you're doing that, I'm going to be doing this. And I'm going to, like a little fairy, come in and clean your house, take all your troubles away. And in a few hours, you will, and all you do is a message. All it is a story. And if you create that story, suddenly you've got that person going, where do I sign up? Like, where is this? I need this for me. And
Yes.
so much more powerful than going, you're going to go and get a cleaner now?
Oh, one of your cleaners.
The thing is, that's the thing, right?
Right.
It's about the story. We can sell something if we have the right messaging. And that's what we've got to do, is get the messaging right.
Okay. And so, okay, so then I guess the problem, what you were talking about, so what would the person be experiencing because of this
Yeah.
problem that they have? So we start poking that, and then
Yeah.
we come in with
Give
a
them a
solution.
solution.
Yes. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but the solution that's going to make them feel that state that they want to be in. So there's a
Right.
state that they're going for. It could be an inspirational identity, or it could be a state that they want to feel. And in that case, it's to feel guilt-free. It's to feel chilled and relaxed when they're in their home. It's that they can have their friends and family come and be entertained, and them just to have that weight off their shoulders. And the
Right.
thing is, I'm saying this and going, why don't I have a blinking cleaner?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I have one? It makes me want to have a cleaner. But that's the thing. It's just about the messaging, getting it right. And like I said, making sure that the pricing that we then attach to that is truly reflective of the price that it costs us to do business, including allowing money to make a profit. God
Yeah.
forbid we made a profit. So we can build that into our prices. So once we do that, if we have that clear message to the client why they need us, then we have the pricing that we own and we go, yes, we are worth this. How much is it worth to have that amazing solution that you're guilt-free in that? My gosh, surely that's that's worth a lot of money, way more than you're going to pay a cleaner. So that's what we're taking away that tangibility, that physical thing, because, when you're talking about washing windows and floors and stuff, it's very boring and it's very like, well, I can do that myself.
Yeah, it is.
But
It's very
like you said, it's not something you can do yourself, because you would have been doing it yourself if you
exactly.
could, but for
Yeah.
some reason you can't.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Awesome.
between the lot of it, between the pricing, the message, that's what you've got to get around. So, and then it's a case of, like I said earlier, just understanding you don't have to be the guru, and that way market yourself, put out those key messages about why you're amazing for your client, and why your client is going to benefit from using your amazing service or your amazing product.
Yeah.
Talk it up and be relatable to your audience. So messaging, price is right, and the two collide, and we're happy.
Wow. I absolutely love this. That's really powerful what we said there. So if people want to know more, which I'm sure they would, because like this got me thinking, where can they find you? And so tell us your social media, and which we will absolutely link wherever you're listening to this. It'll probably be in the description underneath. So, but tell us how you help people and where they can find you.
So, as you mentioned earlier, but long intro, sorry about that. I am a coach, an advisor, and a trainer. So, I merge all things into one primarily. So, I have sessions which are purely just training, but even those is bringing in an element of coaching and things into it, clearly advice, because it's just advice and how to implement it with the training. So, I offer training services through a membership and through individual courses, and they're located on faqbusinesstraining.com. And I have a main website, faqbusinesstraining.com.au, and that's where you can find everything. You can find my podcasts that I do, so FAQ Business Podcast. You can find blogging on there. You can find all sorts of bits and pieces, upcoming events that I have happening, and you can also find out about the business coaching and stuff that I do. So I am a professional certified coach with the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. So I have tools in my toolbox to help to break down. So, if you go, okay, that all sounds great today, but I still can't do it, I'm still not doing it, then that's what coaching does, as it works through those blocks and things to a point. But we might go, you know what, you actually need a counselor, because this is actually deeper. And that's
Yeah.
where we know our limitations. And I go, okay, that maybe we'll deal with this stuff, but you go see a counselor, go see Vanya for that stuff, because she can help you over there. Because we've got to know where our limit is. So our focus as a coach is forward, whereas a counselor might want to fix things that have happened in the past so that they can move forward. So that's
Right.
where the two kind of modalities work together. So yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
I'm also on social media Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, just as FAQ Business Training. Just look it up and you'll find us there.
Yeah, that's great. As I said, we will link it in the description wherever you're listening to this. Thank you so much for coming on. That was brilliant information and excellent talk, and so much stuff to take from this and then think about, and thinking about how we can implement it in whatever it is we're doing. So yes, so we'll hopefully have you on again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a
Bye.
great day.